My husband used our toddler's identity to open a $60,000 loan for his secret girlfriend, so I posted his bank statements and her nudes on his church's Facebook page. I never thought I'd be the one to expose my husband, not just for cheating, but for something so twisted, I still can't believe it happened. What if I told you he used our toddler's identity to take out a $60,000 loan for his secret girlfriend? And when I finally cracked, I posted his bank statements and her nudes on our church's Facebook page, making sure everyone saw exactly who he really was. My name's Emily. I'm 31, living in a quiet suburb outside Atlanta. Married for 5 years to Tom, we have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter, Lily. We went to the same church, same community, same life that felt solid, until everything shattered. Tom was the perfect husband, or at least the perfect mask he wore for everyone else. But behind closed doors, there was a secret world I never imagined. It all started with a weird text message I saw on his phone, something about a payment plan and a big help. I shrugged it off, thinking it was work-related, but a small voice inside told me to dig deeper. Then came the bills, strange charges, odd bank withdrawals, and finally, an alert that made my blood run cold, a loan under Lily's name. My daughter's name, her social security number, used to take out a massive $60,000 loan. For what? For his girlfriend. Someone he'd hidden from me, right under my nose. My heart shattered in ways words can't explain. The betrayal was suffocating. How do you trust the father of your child when he's stealing from your family for a secret affair? I was furious, hurt, and terrified. I had to decide what to do, stay silent or expose the truth to protect my daughter and myself. I began collecting everything: bank statements, messages, pictures, building the undeniable proof. But the more I uncovered, the uglier the story got. Tom wasn't just cheating, he was living a double life funded by lies and theft. I wanted the world to know the real Tom, the man who preached love on Sunday but broke promises every day of the week. So, I posted everything on our church's Facebook page, including those bank statements and photos that shattered his facade. The fallout was immediate and explosive. But this story isn't just about revenge, it's about survival, courage, and the fight to protect what's mine. And trust me, you haven't heard the half of it. I remember staring at that loan notice, heart pounding, mind racing. How could Tom do this? Use our baby's identity like it was nothing. I felt sick, betrayed, beyond belief. But instead of yelling or confronting him right away, I buried that shock deep, pretending I didn't know. I smiled. I acted normal around him and everyone else. But inside, my world was crumbling. Days passed, and I started noticing the little things: texts deleted when I wasn't looking, phone calls he rushed to end, secretive behavior that didn't match the man I married. The red flags piled up, one after another, until the truth was impossible to ignore. I remembered times when he'd work late or visit a friend, but now I wondered if he was with her. The trust I'd given so freely began to feel like a naive mistake. I was caught between wanting to believe in my marriage and the gnawing suspicion that everything was a lie. One night, I overheard a whispered conversation between Tom and someone on the phone. His voice was low and urgent, talking about covering tracks and making sure no one finds out. My stomach twisted. I wasn't just imagining things. He was hiding a second life, and it was bigger than I thought. I started combing through bills and bank statements with fresh eyes. There it was, a $60,000 loan taken out with Lily's social security number. The payments were going to some unknown account, money vanishing without a trace. My daughter, innocent and unaware, had been weaponized in his deceit. But the internal battle was the hardest part. Part of me wanted to scream and demand answers. Another part feared destroying the family, losing what little peace we had left. Was I overreacting? Was I imagining betrayal where there was none? The confusion ate at me. Still, the facts didn't lie. I was no longer a woman blind to the cracks. I was awake, and the nightmare was unfolding in real time. I knew I couldn't stay silent much longer. Then came the moment I stumbled on his secret. Messages, photos, conversations with the other woman. It wasn't just about money, it was about a betrayal that went far deeper. The shock hit me like a freight train. How could the man I loved live this double life? How could he risk everything we had for a secret fling? The question that haunted me was, what would I do with this truth? Stay quiet and protect a broken marriage, or tear down the facade and fight for my daughter's future? And that's when the plan started forming in my mind. Expose him, hold him accountable, and make sure I couldn't just sit back and pretend everything was fine. The more I uncovered, the more I knew I had to act, and fast. I started keeping a close eye on Tom's phone when he wasn't around, snooping through texts, emails, anything that might give me a clue. It was exhausting, but the truth was worth every sleepless night. The tension at home was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every time Tom walked in, my heart raced, not from love, but from fear and suspicion. He acted like nothing was wrong, but I could see the cracks in his facade. Sometimes he'd glance at me quickly, his eyes darting away when I caught him, like a guilty child caught in the act. One day, I found a message he thought he deleted, something about a payment and next week, sent to a name I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. It was a clear sign he was still pulling the strings behind my back, keeping his other life alive. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was hurt beyond words. My trust was shattered, replaced by a deep, gnawing betrayal that echoed in every room of our home. How could he do this? How could he use our own daughter's identity for a secret life, a hidden loan? But even as I gathered evidence, the fear grew. What if this blew up and destroyed our family completely? What if people judged me, thought I was overreacting or playing the victim? The doubt crept in like a shadow, whispering that maybe I should just let it go. And then came the moment that broke me, when I stumbled upon photos on his phone. Not just pictures, but naked photos of his girlfriend, sent to him in secret. The woman he was funding with our toddler's loan. My hands trembled as I held the screen, the reality sinking in deeper than ever before. I wanted to scream, to cry, to rage, but instead I felt numb. The man I trusted had built a whole other life on lies, betrayal, and theft. I was stuck between heartbreak and fury, unsure of my next move. That's when I decided I couldn't keep this secret any longer. The world needed to know the truth, and I was ready to make sure they did. I still remember the exact moment I hit post on our church's Facebook page. My hands were shaking, heart pounding, and my mind screamed at me, "What are you doing? This will change everything." But I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. The world needed to see the real Tom, the man behind the mask. I uploaded the bank statements showing the $60,000 loan under Lily's name, the transfers to the secret account, and, yes, even the private photos of his girlfriend he tried so hard to hide. I wanted to strip away every lie, every deception, and expose the truth for all to see. The response was instantaneous. Comments flooded in, shock, disbelief, anger. Some friends and church members who once smiled and nodded at Tom now questioned everything. The man who preached love and honesty was unmasked as a fraud, but the backlash wasn't all support. Tom's family and some in our community accused me of public shaming, dragging personal matters into the open. There were messages telling me I was wrong to air dirty laundry and warnings that I was destroying the family's reputation. The pressure was immense, but so was my conviction. At home, the atmosphere turned icy. Tom confronted me with rage, denial, and threats. He begged for forgiveness, but refused to take responsibility. The man I once loved was gone, replaced by someone desperate to control the narrative and silence me. Through all the chaos, one thing became crystal clear. I had taken back my power. I wasn't a victim. I was a warrior fighting for my daughter's future and my own dignity. This public exposure wasn't revenge, it was survival. The church community became divided. Some stood with me, others with Tom. The quiet sanctuary turned into a battleground. But I didn't regret a single moment of it. Looking back, I realized that sometimes you have to break the silence, shatter the illusions, and face the fallout head on to protect what truly matters. This story was far from over, but for the first time, I was no longer afraid. The days after the post felt like walking through fire. The backlash was relentless. Some friends I thought were loyal vanished overnight, refusing to take sides or offering cold shoulders. Even members of our church, who once welcomed us with open arms, whispered behind our backs. The community I once trusted became a minefield of judgment and suspicion. Mike, my closest confidant, struggled to support me without alienating his family. The tension at home was unbearable. Arguments erupted over every little thing, and the weight of betrayal hung heavy in the air. I felt like I was fighting not only for justice, but for my very sanity. Financially, the damage was severe. The $60,000 loan left a gaping hole in our credit, affecting everything from our mortgage applications to everyday bills. I spent hours on the phone with creditors, fraud departments, and legal advisors, learning terms I never imagined I'd have to understand. The battle to repair my daughter's name and our finances was exhausting and emotionally draining. Despite it all, a strange thing happened. I found strength I didn't know I had. I started connecting with others online who had suffered similar betrayals. Their stories, their courage, became a lifeline. Sharing my own story turned from a desperate cry for help into a beacon of hope for others trapped in toxic relationships. I also sought therapy to navigate the emotional wreckage. The pain of trusting someone so deeply, only to be used and deceived, was a wound that ran deep. But through therapy, I learned to rebuild my sense of self-worth and to begin forgiving, not for Tom's sake, but for mine. One night, I sat alone looking at old family photos, the smiles frozen in time, the innocence before everything fell apart. It was heartbreaking and healing at the same time. I realized that while some chapters end in pain, they also open the door to new beginnings. I wasn't just surviving, I was slowly reclaiming my life. The scars were still there, but they were proof of my resilience, my refusal to be broken. Leaving the old life behind wasn't easy, but I knew I had to do it. I packed up our things and moved to a new city, a fresh start where no one knew the chaos that had consumed my life. The silence was both comforting and haunting. No whispers behind my back, no sideways glances at church, just space to breathe and rebuild. But healing wasn't instant. Nights were the hardest. Alone in a quiet apartment, my mind replayed every betrayal, every lie, every stolen moment. I wondered if I'd made the right choice, if I was running away or finally facing my truth. The past lingered like a shadow, dark and persistent. Then came an unexpected message, an email with the subject line, "I know where you are." My heart stopped. Fear surged through me, but beneath it was a fierce determination. I wasn't going to be chased or silenced again. Whoever sent it, it was a challenge I was ready to face. I realized I had a choice: keep running or stand and fight. The battle wasn't just about stolen money or broken trust anymore. It was about reclaiming my peace, my safety, and my life. With new resolve, I started taking steps to protect myself. I changed my phone number, updated security settings, and sought legal advice to ensure no one could hurt me or my daughter again. This time, I was in control. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined me. I was stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Facing Tom again was something I never wanted, but it became unavoidable. When the day came, the air was thick with tension. He sat across from me trying to act like everything was normal, like none of the lies, betrayals, or stolen money existed. But I wasn't fooled. The man I loved was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Our conversation was a minefield of emotions: anger, hurt, regret, and denial. Tom tried to gaslight me, twisting facts and blaming me for tearing the family apart. "You pushed me away," he said. "I had no choice." But I saw through the excuses. I looked him in the eye and told him, "You made your choices, and now you have to face the consequences." That moment was the climax of everything I'd endured. I had a choice: to crumble under the weight of betrayal or stand strong and walk away. I chose to stand. Leaving him behind was painful, but it was also freeing. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of peace. The toxic ties that bound me to lies and deceit were severed. I was no longer a prisoner to his secrets. The future was uncertain, but I knew one thing for sure: I had reclaimed my voice, my power, and my life. After walking away from Tom, a deep silence settled over my life. The chaos, the lies, the secrets, the betrayal was gone, but it left behind a vast emptiness. I didn't cry. Instead, I sat alone, the quiet so loud it filled every corner of my heart. The memories of what once was haunted me: the smiles, the promises, the love that now felt like a distant dream. I found myself revisiting old photos, messages, and moments that once brought joy but now stung like fresh wounds. The cycle of grief and nostalgia was painful but necessary. Slowly, I realized that this brokenness was also a kind of beauty, proof of my resilience and strength. I began sharing my story publicly, hoping to help others trapped in similar betrayals. The outpouring of support from strangers who had been through the same pain lifted me, reminding me I was not alone. Therapy became a lifeline, helping me rebuild trust and find peace within myself. Healing wasn't about forgetting, it was about acceptance and growth. One evening, as I looked at the sky, I noticed how clear and vast it was, like a promise of new beginnings. The scars remained, but they were no longer wounds. They were reminders of survival. This chapter had closed, but a new one was just beginning. If I could go back and talk to the woman I was before all this, naive, trusting, hopeful, I'd tell her this: every scar, every tear, every betrayal shaped who I am today. I wouldn't change a thing. Without that pain, I wouldn't have found my strength. I don't have all the answers now, and I don't know what the future holds. But I've learned to live with the questions, the doubts, and the shadows of the past. Sometimes I still think about Tom, the man I thought I knew, and the stranger he became. And sometimes I wonder if he's fighting his own battles somewhere, lost like I once was. I walk forward without hatred or revenge. There's a strange peace in acceptance, even when things don't end perfectly. Life isn't about neat endings. It's about finding meaning in chaos and choosing who we want to be. Maybe this story is mine, maybe it's yours too, because everyone has secrets, betrayals, and moments when the people closest to us break our trust. What matters is how we rise after we fall. So if you're listening and feel lost or broken, remember this: darkness never lasts forever. There's always a dawn, even when you can't see it yet. I left that chapter behind, but sometimes, in dreams, I still go back, not to relive the pain, but to find the parts of myself I thought I lost. Not all wounds need healing. Some scars are meant to stay, to remind us we truly lived. That's my story. Maybe it's yours too. And if you're struggling, hold on. The night is darkest just before the dawn.